So we're going to talk about leadership now, and I know this is another one of the themes. And one of the things that people fed back to me in the vision process was that vicars were tired. No, it's really important to have a vicar. They felt like they couldn't really do stuff in their church unless they had a vicar or a strong leader. And that leadership was key, but vicars were overstretched, they were tired, they were bogged down with all sorts of other stuff like admin, safeguarding, buildings, and also the extra challenge of lack of volunteers, an ageing group of volunteers who are wanting to put things down. And so, where have you got up to with this one?
It's a challenge, isn't it? Yeah, let's be honest about it. This is challenging stuff. Yeah, so leadership is one of the key themes. One of our streams is all about how we develop the leadership that we need going forward, and that there are a number of strands to that. Firstly, how do we help people step into leadership in the local context? So how do we encourage people to volunteer? Some people don't volunteer because they don't see themselves in that place of being able to be a leader or being able to commit time. How do we help people do that? How do we help people see themselves as leaders? Very often people, if they don't see someone they think is like them leading, then that prevents them from seeing themselves as a leader. So there's something about us helping people to step into leadership and promoting people of all backgrounds in our leadership. That's one of the things we're looking at. Secondly is how do we develop employed roles and lay leadership in its broadest sense. Ordained leadership and licensed leadership are key elements of our structure, but as you've pointed out, we're short of leaders. People aren't coming forward for those roles as much as we would want them to. So there's something about us thinking differently about how we structure ourselves and how we free people up to lead in a worshipping community, perhaps in a way they've not done before. There are some challenges associated with that in terms of legalities and what people are allowed to do and what they're not. But there are things that we can do to call people forward. There's something about us calling and challenging people, saying you are the sort of person we actually need going forward, because we're talking about being more missional. Our church culture needs to change, and so we might need different types of leader going forward. And some of those people might have never seen themselves as being a leader. And the final element of that is how do we support and encourage our existing leaders? And absolutely, we recognise that people are tired. The burden of leadership and the administration associated with leadership has often grown, partly because there are more things to do. As we try and manage issues like safeguarding better than we have done. But it's partly about there being a lack of people to do some of the things that one would hope a volunteer would do. And so a church leader is now having to do those things. And that's absolutely at the heart of our thinking. How do we reduce the administrative burden that we as a central team might place upon people? There are things that we have to challenge ourselves as a central team about that. But also, how can we free leaders up from external expectations and their own personal expectations that are actually they're putting upon themselves? How do we help people discern what God's actually challenging them to do and encouraging them to do now, and put aside the things that they're doing because they feel they have to or because other people are expecting them to do? So that's about expectation, our own personal expectations of ourselves and our expectations of other people. Church congregations place expectations upon their leaders, some of which are unrealistic and inappropriate. So we need to do some work on how we challenge that and how we find new ways of releasing people. So they're focusing on doing the things that bring them most joy and where their sense of vocational call is and where their skills and their gifts actually best place them.
Joy. I like that word.
Yes, joy. There needs to be joy in what we're doing. Yeah. I don't believe God calls us to a life of servitude. He calls us to live life in all its fullness, doesn't he? So we need to be able to find and help people minister from a place of joy, a place of rest, a place of knowing that they're loved by God, and that they're collaborating with Him rather than having to do things for Him.